And so in some states, for example, in India today, the water is given to the farmer free of charge. The electricity for the irrigation pumps is given to the farmer free of charge. And all we're doing is inefficiently using both water and energy. That's not to say we should not have appropriate social safety nets for the poorest of the poor. We should. But if you don't put a price on a scarce resource, you effectively waste that scarce resource. This doesn't show at all, so I won't bother with it. It basically says, unless you can see it, but I mean, it basically says that 15 to 35% of all irrigation today is already unsustainable. There's an innate value, of course, to biodiversity in the absence of humans, the innate value. But these are also the constituents of human well-being. Security, basic material for good life, human health, good social relations, and as Amartya Sen would say, freedom of choice and action. So our ecosystems are providing services that are central to human well-being. We've had unprecedented change in the last 50 years. Why? We've been focusing on producing food, focusing on using fresh water, focusing on fibre and energy. What have we done? We've weakened or degraded 15 of the 25 services. We've literally weakened every regulating service, every cultural service, and most supporting services. Totally unsustainable. In other words, if you went to a finance minister and said, I've got 25 measures of the wealth of your nation, and 15 of the indicators are going south, only 5 are going up and about 5 are level, you'd have a very, very worried finance minister. This, however, does not seem to grab people's attention. If you look to see what's happened, up to 1950, it's the light colour. Oh, it's interesting. It's been converted to yellow from orange. Very interesting. We'd lost 60% of all Mediterranean forests by the 1950s. So the first part of the colour, what you see, I think, is yellow, is what was lost up to 1950. The next part is what was lost between 1950 and 1990. And the part in red, the third part of the histogram, is what we project by 2050. We're not going to lose any more Mediterranean forests. We've lost most of them. But if you look at the tropical forests, we project, largely to meet agricultural needs, that we will continue to see rapid loss of many of the tropical forested systems. So by 2050, we'll have probably lost 50%, 70% rather, of all forest systems in the world. So what do we need to do? We've got to get the economics right. We've got to value ecosystem services, and not just those bought and sold in the market. Many of these services do not sell in the market. It's only the provisioning services, the food, the fibre and the energy. The regulating, the cultural services normally don't have market value. We need to take the value of all services into account. We need to reduce subsidies for agriculture, fishery and energy. We need payments to landowners to manage the land more sustainably. We need to put appropriate pricing policies for natural resources such as water in place. We need to put taxes and levies and fees to discourage unsustainable activities, and we need market mechanisms to buy and sell, for example, carbon. We clearly need non-financial incentives, laws, regulations. We need property rights. We need to have effectively environmentally friendly technologies. And last at the bottom is incredibly important. We need to influence human behaviour. We need to explain why these systems are so important to us, why they are the lifeblood of future generations. So we need to educate. And this, I think, brings together the John Rose Award that you'll hear about later and meet the recipient. We have to be able to translate our science to the public at large. I'm co-chairing with Steve Alban from Scotland a new assessment for the United Kingdom, basically Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and England. And so we've come up with a methodological framework ourselves. What drives change? How do the ecosystems respond? What are the goods and services, the values? How does it affect human well-being? It's a variant of the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment that I was the board co-chair. We've seen this. So what we've recognised is there's a nice way to do it. There are primary processes, soil formation, nutrient cycling, pollination. Then it gets to things that we care about, final ecosystem services, the clean water provisioning, food production, trees, water regulation. What does it give us? It gives us drinking water, cereals, timber. And we're now going to put a value on it of how is the economy of the UK been affected by changes in the past, and what are the plausible future changes, and we will effectively look at the value of the goods and services we get from ecosystems. And just one more, if you can look at it, but we also realise, and this is a bit more sophisticated, the other one was a simplistic diagram, but we also realise there's non-economic value, the way it affects human health, the way it affects well-being. And so we've come up with a whole new methodology of how to look at the value of our ecological systems. We look at what's happened in the past, and we look 50 years in the future. Human security. In red, it's basically where in grey, where are the high per capita emissions of greenhouse gases? North America, Europe, Russia, Australia. In red, which are the countries most vulnerable to climate change? Parts of Africa, most of Asia, most of Latin America. And there's a few hashed areas, only a few, where you've got both high per capita emissions of greenhouse gases and they're also vulnerable. A monstrous equity issue. The countries in grey have caused the problem. The countries in red are the recipients of the problem. In other words, it's the industrialised countries that have caused and are continuing to cause climate change. It's developing countries that are most vulnerable. Conflict. Take sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Southeast Asia. Tens of millions of people likely to be displaced due to sea level rise. Food shortages and hunger, where we've already got food shortages today. A lack of water, where we've already got water shortages today. Natural resources that poor people depend on, completely lost in some parts of the world. Increased incidence of disease, increased incidence of severe weather. All of those are factors in Africa and in Southeast Asia. Climate change coupled with other stresses, it's only one stress, but coupled to other stresses is likely to lead to local and regional conflict, likely to lead to migration of people from sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, into OECD countries, into Europe and North America. The rate of migration, the rate of conflict will depend on the social, economic and political circumstances of those countries. Some countries will be more resilient to conflict than others, but the issue is governance. So what do we need to do? The goal of Europe and North America is effectively to try and limit greenhouse gas emissions such we can limit climate change to 2 degrees Celsius relative to pre-industrial. It's the UK position, it's the European position, it's exactly the right position. It's an incredible stretch target, and the probability of hitting it is not very high. And therefore, we have to be willing to start to think through what will it take to adapt to a 4 degrees Celsius world. It's not that I'm a pessimist. The goal is to limit it to 2 degrees Celsius, but we ought to understand what the implications of 4 degrees Celsius are, and I think it's a world that most of us will not want to see.